Good morning. Good morning. There you go. All right. Making sure everybody's awake. I could hear you singing earlier. Before I begin, I'm going to take a point of privilege in here. Last Sunday and Monday, Betty and I were in Blue Springs, Missouri. My brother-in-law, Ted Schubkagel, is very ill with cancer and is at home. And he's at home and not being able to attend worship services, so he's watching sermons on the internet this morning. So I'm going to give a shout out, Ted. You were in our prayers this morning. God bless. All right? Be strong. So thank you for letting me do that. All right. So, are you a follower? No? I got a sermon for you. Try this again. Are you a follower? Yes. All right. Or how about, we had somebody say, no, that's okay. Right? Because somebody might be here. I assume there's a lot of followers in here. And we're going to talk about what that means here. But there also may be somebody in here that's a little on the curious side. If you're on the curious side, that's good. Hopefully we'll get there. Okay? And bring along. Because that's what we're talking about in this text here this morning. This is from the Sermon on the Mount. I had us go back and pick up that verse before it because it's significant in here. There were followers around Jesus. He had all kinds of followers with him, and he brings them up on a mountain and begins that Sermon on the Mount and starts teaching them. And the first word that he uses in there, the word that occurs over and over again as he's going through, is the word blessed. It's kind of why I had you write down, what are your blessings? What are you blessed with? I'll come to that. Going through here. But it's this idea of blessed going through. And this idea of blessing is inherent and deep in the Old Testament. In Old Testament people, Abraham blessed Isaac. Isaac, his only son. Isaac, the one who, at the end of Abraham's life, he blessed Isaac, and Isaac got the name, he got the inheritance, he got the family, he was the head, he got the blessing. Then a generation later, Isaac blessed Jacob. That's not how it was supposed to go, remember? Because Esau was the oldest, and there was that trick, and Jacob got the blessing. He got the big blessing from his father of the land and the property and everything, and the name and the family, all that stuff that went with it. Jacob got that blessing, and when Esau found out that he'd been tricked, he goes to his father. He goes to Isaac and says, Father, you got to give me something. I can't go on. I can't live without at least some kind of blessing from you. And Isaac gives him a blessing. There's a guy in the Old Testament tells us he had a vast family. He had 8 sons and daughters. All of them were married. All of them lived in the area. All of them got along. Once a week, they'd have a huge party at one of their houses. It was great in here. They had wonderful, large family. The guy was fabulously wealthy. He had the Israelite dream, you might say, in here. He had more sheep than he could count. He had more goats than he could count. He had more cattle than he could count. He had more crops and stuff that he could count. And he was, like I said, it seemed like he was living the dream. Until one day, everything of that was lost. Everything was gone. Then on top of that, the next day came, and the next day was in here. He got sick, not just a little bit sick, but horribly disfiguring sick. And his friends came. He had 5 friends, and his friends came around. You know what the message of the friends were? You're cursed. What'd you do wrong? You're cursed. Why don't you just do us all a favor and die? Rid this planet of you. Lots of compassion there. And comes in, and you're cursed in here, and top it all off, his wife basically says the same thing in here. So we have this image in the Old Testament as this is what blessed is. So David, the king, is a guy who's blessed. He has the king, he has wives, he has the kingdom, he has armies, he has wealth, he has riches. He's blessed. Abraham is a guy who's blessed. A guy like Isaiah is not, who suffers horribly for the gospel. A guy like Jeremiah, the prophet, who because he kept speaking God's word to a people who wouldn't listen, he spent years in prison. Because I figured that was the only way to shut him up. Or a guy like Ezekiel, who writes the book of Ezekiel. The guy Ezekiel writes this book, Ezekiel, in here. And it says it got so bad at one point in time, Ezekiel's wife died. And God tells Ezekiel, don't even mourn for her. It's that bad. He's not blessed. And the guy I told you about in the story is a guy by the name of Job. And he wasn't considered blessed either. And so we tag into this idea too often and too easy. And this idea of blessed becomes our American dream. And if you're living the dream, you're blessed. Like the lady who was born in the South into the most abject poverty a person could possibly imagine. She was a mother at 14, then lost the child. And through some hard works and some breaks, she became living the dream, the American dream. You figured out who it is yet? Oprah Winfrey. Or about the young man who was one of 12 brothers and sisters, born to a crack-addicted mother and a father who was in and out of prison and nowhere around. And he works hard and he gets a break and he goes to high school. And he works hard and he gets a break and he goes to college. And because he was working so hard and who he was, he gets the American dream. He is now a starting tackle for the Baltimore Ravens. His name is Michael Orr. You may not know the name. You may know the movie called Blindside. It's a true story. The American dream. And preachers will stand here and preachers will stand in pulpits and talk on television. This is what blessing is. This is the prosperity. This is the blessing. If you're blessed by God, you're going to have the phones. You're going to have the cars. You're going to have the boats. You're going to have the airplanes. You're going to have all these blessings in here. And life's going to be comfortable for you. And you're going to have more than you need and more than you want in here. And this is what blessing's all about. And they seemingly take this passage to heart from Proverbs. It says, the blessing of the Lord means wealth without painful toil for it. It's true, it's in the Proverbs. Forgetting all the rest of what Old Testament says, and what all of the New Testament, they hang on that. It says the blessing of the Lord means wealth. Thank you very much. I'll take all the blessings I can get. So what are your blessings? What did you write down? You're going to tell me, hope you were honest with yourself. What did you write down? What do you got in your list in your mind? Okay. Is it stuff? You got family written down? We're getting there. If you got family written down, we're getting there. Because you got the story here. We take you back to the story. Jesus is walking through Galilee. He's going through Galilee and he's doing the miracles and he's teaching, and there's a lot of people following him. A lot of people walking around and following him, just hanging on his word, wanting to be with him. And so he takes those followers and he takes them up on top of a mountain. It's right there. It's that picture right there. That's not just one we grabbed off the internet. That's the spot. That's the spot on the north side of the Sea of Galilee, up on a hill right in there. You're looking south across the Sea of Galilee, where Jesus spoke these words. And he comes in, he takes his followers, and he comes to this spot, and he gathers his followers around, and he sits them down, and they sit at his feet, and he starts talking. He starts talking about being blessed. You get it yet? What blessed really is? Blessed is able to sit at the feet of Jesus. That's what blessed is. We get to be in his presence. We get to sit and hear his words. We get to take part in his works. We get to hear his love and hear his forgiveness. We get to hear his stories. We get to be healed in here. Those are the blessings. Those are the blessings that comes with being a follower. It's being a part of that family. It's being a part of that community. It's being a part of that church, big C. Part of that community, part of that church. We're at his feet. That's the blessing he gives us as followers. We're at his feet. The team in going to Kenya. I've not been where they've been. Some of you have been over to Kenya and have seen the churches are going over there. Church is one of the places they're going over there. Is the walls are basically sticks. The side is straw. The roof is a thatched roof. And that's one of the fancy places by any stretch of the imagination in here. Anybody's definition, they're not living the dream. It's the most abject stuff we've ever seen in our lives. But I tell you, friends, they are blessed. And the reason they're blessed is the same reason you are blessed. Because that's where Jesus is. They're at the feet of Jesus. They're at the feet of Jesus, hearing his word, listening to him, hanging out with him, being part of his community. They are blessed. And I was sitting here trying to figure out how I was going to convey this blessed to you. Because, listen to the words. Going down through here, right? Blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are those who mourn. Blessed are the meek. Blessed are those who are hungry and thirst. Blessed are the merciful. Blessed are the pure in heart. Blessed are the peacemakers. Blessed are those who are persecuted. Blessed are when others revile you. And I was sitting here thinking in here, I could talk about these things. And I'd probably be still talking at kickoff this afternoon. And still not have gotten through. But I was trying to figure out one word. How could I describe this? And it came to me, the word's desperate. Blessed are the desperate. Followers are desperate. They're desperate for anything Jesus can give. They're desperate for any blessing, any morsel, any scrap that can fall from the table of the Lord, fall from his cup. That's what this is called too, right? Maybe you caught some of you confirmations here caught that, right? Paul in 1 Corinthians 10 calls this the cup of blessing. That anything that falls from Jesus' cup of blessing, any morsel, any scrap, that's the blessing of God. Because comes with that blessing, it's the blessings that we can only fathom, only possibly imagine. It's all of his grace. It's all of his love. It's all of his forgiveness. It's all of his presence with us. He dwells inside of you and you inside of him. You're part of his family. That's what blessings are about. That's the blessings that God gives us. And what Jesus does in this is Jesus takes this concept of blessing and he takes it and he turns it 180 degrees in the other direction. And says these blessings are here. Right here. These blessings are here. These blessings are inside me. The blessings are inside you. So that's why I ask, are you followers? Are you followers? Because followers are blessed. Followers carry that blessing that God has and God gives to us. Most of all, we sit at his feet. It's the blessing that God gives and he pours out to us. Pours out in you. You're a follower. Yeah, everybody. And you're blessed. Amen.